He says, I don't want the federal government confiscating guns. Yet, he says, and I'll put up this quote, if you live in a state like Texas, if the law in Texas is open carry, so be it. If you live in Pennsylvania where they're more stringent and they don't want you to be able to have a gun other than in your own premises or under lock and key, or you have to do a background check, then that's up to them to decide. So the question then becomes, okay, in Pennsylvania, they decide they want to ban AR-15s. Well, then are they confiscating it? Maybe it's not the federal government confiscating it, but it's the state of Pennsylvania confiscating it. What happened to those citizens' rights? Now, if he changes the Second Amendment, good luck with that. He's never going to get it done. But the question becomes, what happens to those fundamental rights? In order to do what he wants to do, as you say, Cam, you'd have to gut the Second Amendment, rendering it all but useless.
Absolutely. And I think, if you were to press Mark Cuban on those first two steps that he said, right, where you could own a gun and no, the federal government's not going to take that gun from you, you'd find that there'd be all sorts of caveats, right? And some that, are currently law. So if you become a disqualified individual, if you get a felony conviction, you lose that right to own a firearm. I'm sure Mark Cuban would say that that's fine. I'd be very curious to know Mark Cuban's thoughts on red flag firearms laws, where individuals can lose their firearms without any due process whatsoever. Sounds like he would be opposed to it, but I bet if you pressed him on it, he'd be all in favor of these quote unquote red flag laws. So I think that there are these huge caveats, even for the things that are supposed to sound good to gun owners. And then you get to that third step, which is really, again, about allowing any type of gun control imaginable, as long as it's the state doing it as opposed to the federal government. And again, in order for that to happen, you'd have to either change the Constitution outright, and I think you're right. I think it's incredibly difficult to do. But the Supreme Court's already told us in McDonald versus the city of Chicago that not only can the federal government not infringe on the Second Amendment rights of individual American citizens, but state and local governments can't do it either. That's why the city of Chicago's ban on handguns was tossed out as unconstitutional, because there are things that no layer of government can do to infringe on your right to both keep and bear arms. And by the way, Mark Cuban apparently believes it's the right to keep arms, not the right to bear arms.